everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about harnessing the power of empathy and focusing specifically on those individuals that we identify as being empaths. We'll take a look at where that ability to have a heightened empathic attunement comes from, the challenges that empaths face, as well as some strategies for emotional management and well being. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. At its core, this emotional skill involves two main components. The first is cognitive empathy, and that's the capacity to comprehend the emotions and the perspective of another person. The second is affective empathy, and that's the ability to share and resonate with another person's feelings. However, being an empath goes beyond these components as it encompasses a more profound intrinsic connection to the emotions and even kind of the energies or the vibe of the kind of surroundings that we're in. It is the deep, innate ability not only to detect but also to absorb the emotional states of others, often experiencing these emotions as if they were our own. So, Dr. Judith Orloff, who wrote the book, The Empath Survival Guide, really identified four main factors that contribute or lead to one becoming an empath or having that heightened sensitivity. The first two really kind of focus on the side of nature, or you're born that way. The other two on the side of nurture. And oftentimes within the field of psychology, we always have that debate, is it nature or is it nurture? So the two under the nature have to do with genetics and temperament. So genetics truly is that you're born that way. It's written into your DNA because children who are highly sensitive have a tendency to have parents who are highly sensitive themselves. So thus indicating that there may be a genetic factor involved in becoming an empath. Temperament is kind of just the way you're born. Again, some babies are just born with a certain type of temperament, and some of them are much more sensitive in regards to that temperament. And you see that they're more responsive to their environment, specifically like sensory stimulation, where they have kind of an overreaction or a heightened reaction to light and smells and touch and sound, but also to movement or even temperature. So, again, you can just be kind of born that way, whether it's genetics or temperament. The nurture side focuses more on early childhood and your parenting or what you went through as a child. So, the supportive parenting side of that is understanding that positive parenting can really help sensitive children kind of develop more of those empathetic gifts or just kind of being empathetic in general, and helping them to understand that it's okay that they're as sensitive as they are, and nurturing and honoring that part of their personality or those traits that they have. However, we also have the opposite side of positive parenting, which may be neglective or abusive parenting. So, those children who deal with early childhood trauma may also be more likely to be empaths. And I have to say, I definitely see this side of the impact of trauma on the development of more empathetic attunement in that, well, two ways really. One is being that because they went through, such difficult situations and, really kind of look at the situation where they didn't feel seen or heard or understood, or even because they had to grow up in environments that were very chaotic, whether it was because of the abuse and neglect, or even just growing up in situations where they had parents who were dealing with substance abuse or dealing with major mental health issues, or even very narcissistic. They developed that empathy to not only care for their parents, but to protect themselves and understanding and kind of be more aware of their environment. So they have this form of empathy where they don't want other people to be hurt or to be suffering. And so they are more in tune to picking up on those vibes that are kind of coming off of other people or the emotional state of other people. The other side of this is truly has to do with the central nervous system and the way it is skewed due to trauma, and the idea that people who experience trauma kind of function in a state of hyperarousal where their window of tolerance is much smaller. Even through treatment, that window of tolerance can grow, but that heightened arousal state is going to be there. It's always going to be there. It's never going to truly go away, because once the brain kind of develops a certain habit, it takes a lot to change that habit. And so, because of that heightened arousal state, again, they're more in tune to their environment for safety reasons. So, they are paying very closer attention. They're hyper aware to certain things that are going on around them, including what other people's emotional states and also the environmental factors that might be going on, so that they're just know when they might be in some sort of danger. But how it really kind of plays out is that they see and understand and are just more attuned to the world around them. And in fact, in every person that I work with who has gone through trauma, it's one of the things that they say that they like the most about kind of the side effects of it, because they can say, you know what, I actually like being aware, and I like being able to read other people and read my environments, and it makes me feel powerful in a way to know that I have this ability. And they really like too to be able to say, you know, like, I feel like I've grown from my trauma, because being more attuned, being more empathetic, being an empath, I can help other people the way I wasn't necessarily helped. So, in all cases, whether it was nature or nurture that developed the empath, the life of an empath is rich with deep connections and profound emotional experiences. Being highly attuned to the energies and emotions of those around them allows empaths to sense mood shifts, underlying tensions, and the unspoken needs of others. This heightened sensitivity can provide valuable insights into social dynamics and foster significant human connections. Unfortunately, however, this gift also brings unique challenges, as empaths may struggle to distinguish between their own emotions and those they pick up from people around them. Also, empaths have a tendency to learn how to defend against stress much more differently than the rest of the populace, because they are more attuned to their environment and to more attuned to the people around them. Their threshold for sensory stimulation is much lower. I mentioned the window of tolerance earlier. Whether it's trauma related or not, someone who is an empath is going to have a much smaller window of tolerance. So when they experience a stimuli that is could be very well just be simply annoying or just momentarily bothersome to someone else, could be actually very overwhelming for them. For example, empaths in the workplace may find themselves frequently emotionally inundated as they absorb the feelings of colleagues and clients alike. Of course, certain jobs may have this, even more stressful depending on the type of work that they're doing. So, encountering a myriad of emotions such as stress, frustration, and anxiety on a daily basis can lead to emotional overload, making it challenging for empaths to remain grounded and focus on their tasks. This empathetic susceptibility can exacerbate the emotional toll of a normal workday, leading to burnout if not managed effectively. If you follow one of my podcasts on, mental health workers, you'll know that burnout is one of the biggest things that they face, as well as vicarious trauma, which is specifically about taking on that emotional stress of the clients that they work with. But any job can have that. It doesn't have to be just within the mental health or medical field. You can have that working at a counter at a fast food restaurant. Probably in many situations, it's going to be worse on a day to day basis, because you're dealing with people that are hungry and grumpy, and you're dealing with all the Karens of the world. I hate to say that, because I know some really amazing Karens, but just saying that word, you all have that perfect identity of what may be someone that an empath is severely going to struggle with, because they're taking on all that toxicity and trying their best not to absorb it and become overwhelmed by it. So, healing or learning how to manage this emotional overwhelming is possible for all sensitive people. Even if you've experienced early trauma or have been raised by abusive parents or in toxic environment, it's important that you learn how to feel safe enough to embrace your sensitivities. Part of this involves really kind of learning how to set healthy boundaries for yourself. Setting healthy boundaries with other people, by choosing positive people and positive environments to engage with, but also knowing when enough is enough for you. So, again, talking a little bit about the workplace, it's really important for empaths to distinguish the boundary between personal empathy and professional detachment. This can be daunting, though, especially when you have those, personal connections with some of the people that you're working with. Being able to have that empathy, and I understand where you're coming from, but still being detached enough to say, I'm not going to let it affect me. And in certain situations, that detachment comes off wrong because it looks like you're uncaring. So, where is the good balance between empathy and detachment to protect yourself? So, when you're drawn into personal tribulations of colleagues or you're drawn into mediate conflicts, maintaining an objective stance becomes a delicate balancing act. Empaths must navigate these waters with care to prevent professional relationships from becoming emotionally draining and ensuring that their ability to help others is not compromised by personal involvement in every emotional circumstance they encounter. Acknowledging and honoring one's personal limits is an essential step towards establishing healthy boundaries. Empaths need to assess their thresholds for emotional intake and recognize when it's time to step back for self preservation. By outlining these limits, empaths can consciously opt to engage at levels that are sustainable for them and avoid settings or interactions that can push them beyond their emotional capacity, thereby ensuring their own well being while still being present for others. Dr. Orloff talks about in her book about having four basic rights that you set for yourself to overcome that empath overwhelm. And the first one is telling yourself that you have the right to say a loving, positive no or no thank you. The second, I have the right to set limits with how long I listen to people's problems. The third, I have the right to rest and not be always available to everyone. And the last, I have the right to quiet peacefulness in my home and in my heart. So this is going to help kind of really take a more proactive role on when you're going to allow yourself to be empathetically available, to others, and when you need to be able to have that very firm boundary of saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this right now. Remember, as she also says, just because someone is needy doesn't mean you have to meet their needs. Clear communication about one's emotional boundaries can mitigate stress and prevent misunderstandings in the workplace or other social situations. Articulating the need for space or declining to participate in emotionally charged situations when necessary can help maintain these boundaries. It's essential for empaths to advocate for themselves assertively and consistently, teaching others how to interact with them in a way that respects their emotional space. Dr. Orloff also talks about the concept of energy vampires. And I love this term because there are those people that kind of suck the life right out of you. And so it's knowing when to walk away from those kind of people. And again, knowing that it's okay to walk away. As an empath, you have a tendency to kind of be reluctant to say no, or kind of be reluctant to walk away from people, or doing something that may inadvertently hurt someone else's feelings. But remember, you have to put yourself first and you have to take care of your own needs in order to truly help someone else. So be aware of those energy vampires that are around you and find ways to protect yourself from them, to shield yourself from them. And shields may come in different forms. One shield that Dr. Orloff mentions in her book is visualizing your entire body being enveloped by a white light, or it could be any other color that feels important or impactful for you, that feels kind of powerful to you. And think of it as a shield that blocks out negativity or physical discomfort, but also allows what's ever positive to filter in. So, being able to Also, sometimes visualize an actual shield, whether it's a wall or some sort of barrier around you that deactivates or deflects those negative emotions that are coming at you, or those negative kind of energies that are coming at you. And again, only allows in what you want to feel. That shield can also be a way of you being able to truly recognize what is my feeling versus what is it that I'm gathering from someone else. And part of the ability to recognize what is my emotion versus somebody else's emotion for an empath is developing a heightened sense of self awareness. And this is paramount for empaths to manage your emotional capacities effectively. It involves recognizing the moments when one is absorbing emotions from external sources and the ensuing impact on one's emotional state. Also, regular self reflection can aid empaths in differentiating between self originated emotions and those acquired from their surroundings. This level of mindfulness is a critical component in the empath's toolbox for emotional regulation and also can be used as kind of a signal for when you need to raise those shields. Various techniques can also be employed to restore an empath's emotional equilibrium. Moderate levels of physical exercise, mindfulness practice such as meditation, and creative outlets like journaling and art can all serve as grounding activities. They offer a respite from the emotional noise and provide a means to discharge any accumulated emotional energy. Including these practices in one's daily routine can foster a sense of inner calm and stability amidst that emotional whirlwind of everyday life. And if this sounds familiar to you from other posts that I've had, it's because self care is key towards managing your emotional stability. And this is even more true for those of you that are an empath. You must make sure that you're engaging in regular self care to keep your body and your mind calm so that you can better manage whatever is thrown at you. Empathy can be a powerful leadership tool when harnessed correctly. Leaders who are empath have the unique ability to understand their team's motivations, concerns, and aspirations at a profound level. This deep comprehension fosters trust and loyalty and can result in a workplace atmosphere that is cooperative, innovative, and highly productive. When leaders utilize their empathetic abilities, they can tailor their approach to meet individual needs of their team members, creating a supportive and understanding work environment. While empathy can enhance leadership capabilities, it must be balanced, though, with the establishment of compassionate boundaries. Leading with a heart does not mean carrying the emotional burdens of every team member, but rather recognizing when to offer support and when to empower individuals to manage their challenges. By integrating emotional intelligence with boundary setting, empathetic leaders can inspire their teams and drive performance without becoming enmeshed in the emotional undertows of their work environment. So, in closing, harness empathy to connect deeply with others, but set boundaries to protect your well being and lead with strength.